talk about the sectoral trends, Akshay, which sector looks most ripe for deal activity at this point?
Infrastructure. We're seeing lots and lots of interest in infrastructure across the board. So whether it is roads and highways, whether it is renewable power, I mean, there's lots and lots of activity happening there. We've discussed insurance like earlier on, so we see that there is quite a lot of deal activity happening in insurance. E-commerce is one of those areas where, for the last 5 years, I think it's been, there's a lot of deal activity going on.
Yes.
And of course, financial services, which we started off discussing at the start of this interview.
So in infrastructure, of course, we've been thinking that it will get a lot of money. Of course, some bit of foreign money has started to trickle in. RDR has made a recent investment, but you're seeing more foreign interest in that?
We have, at any given, well, if I was to look at it right now, we've probably got about 10 or 12 live deals, big ticket size. I'm not sure that all of them will sign and close, but even if 50% of that happens, I mean, that's a really, really good strike rate in terms of the deals that are happening in the infrastructure space. The InvITs have been a little damp. We were hoping that there would be a little more interest in InvITs. But I mean, the reality is that there is so much money chasing so few assets that in terms of valuations, there's a little bit of a rub there.
Actually, I'm surprised that InvITs and REITs did not pick up, especially at a time when the equity markets are flushed with funds. People are really hunting for options to make the
I think you will see a lot of activity on the REIT side. I mean, again, things I can't discuss, but we're actively involved with clients, and we're looking at a few REIT opportunities.
So what really has changed that the REIT opportunity may really
Well, I mean, there's been, of course, there's been, from a tax perspective, the pass-throughs have now sort of all come in. So that's really been the key attraction. Also, I think what's happened is that there are some players who have extremely large portfolios, and it's not from their perspective, it would make sense to monetize it through a REIT opportunity.
All right. Now, when we talk about the valuations, Akshay, how difficult is it for anybody to crack a deal at this point because of the way the equity markets have been running up?
It's tough. Look, we probably had about 30 IPOs this year. So, so really when you're looking at either strategic investors or financial investors, private equity investors coming in, for promoters, it's always, the trade-off is, do I want somebody who's going to come in and sort of be actively involved, or do I want to do an IPO and have a higher level of compliance, but much more flexibility in terms of the manner in which I run my business. So that's been one challenge. And the other is, quite frankly, there are too many people chasing too few deals. So we're seeing, at least in terms of deal activity, we're seeing a 2007-8 kind of frenzy. Every asset, it's much tougher to find for our private equity investors exclusivity in deals. Generally speaking, it's a bidding process. So the valuations are stretched. But if you look at the economy generally, I think that in the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to see that some of this made sense.
So some of the investors, the large investors, are really figuring out the opportunities which haven't really priced in the growth in the next few years. So telecom investment, I would call it in that particular space. Bank investment as far as Axis Bank is concerned, and several others that may really happen going forward, could be in that particular space. Apart from these two, are there any other such pockets and areas which the investors are really keenly watching out because they haven't really factored in the growth or haven't really priced in all the growth prospects going forward?
I would probably say infrastructure is one such area.
Yes.
I think infrastructure, there's a lot. The unfortunate bit is that currently the focus is a little bit more on acquiring existing assets, which have, what we would really like to see is a lot more greenfield investment coming in, and I think that will happen.
Greenfield investment, you're
I think it will happen. It's not there at the moment. The bulk of the interest in the infrastructure sector is actually acquiring existing assets or assets which are near completion. But I think that over time we will now, once that shift happens, it will be really good for the economy as a whole.